Alright guys, I've got the first victim in the helping hands for my solder work. I had some questions asked about my soldering iron through email. It's a 25 watt soldering iron. Okay? What I'm doing right now is tinning the tip. It just kind of helps clean off some of the impurities that build up while she's sitting idle in storage. Okay? And I got a bright, shiny tip, and that's what I want. Now, one thing about soldering is you apply the heat, then the solder. You do not apply the solder at the same time as the heat. So I'm going to put the soldering iron on my pieces, and then the solder. And one of the reasons you do that is because the solder will adhere better to hot metal than it will to cold metal. Okay? It adheres better to hot metal than to cold metal. Alright, that's probably set up enough. And one way to know you've got a good solder joint is to tug on it. And see, I'm tugging on it and it's not going anywhere. It means I got a good solder joint. So now I need to do the other joint with the black wire. Now you'll notice I had that black wire, the red wire kind of spooled around that red wire a little bit. It's going to be a little harder to do right now because I've got you guys on camera. So what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull that off there. I'm going to try to go ahead and do that on camera with you guys. And I don't think it's going to cooperate very well with me. I had some trouble. This wire is not copper, and the leads on the LEDs are pretty short. So I think I'm not going to do that on this guy. I'm just going to go ahead and solder him. We're just going to line them up right next to each other with the helping hands and do my solder work, which is going to be fun because these guys are, ooh, that lined up really well almost. There we go. I don't know if you guys are, let's see if we're still on camera. Yeah, we are. You guys can see what I'm doing. That's probably about as good as I'm going to get it. Right there is perfect. So I'm going to take my soldering iron, and then again, apply the heat first. So I come up from underneath, hit it with the heat, wait a few seconds, then the solder. And of course, yeah, that's not working. That's not working because the wires are not holding together. I did not have them aligned right. That'll work. Wasted a bit of solder that time. Just goes to show you, I'm not an expert at this. I haven't done my 10,000 hours of soldering work to be an expert. I've done some soldering work, yes, but not 10,000 hours of it. But I can give some tugs on there. Those are on there. They're good. Alright? Now the fun part, I get to test and see how well it worked. Put the red on there. Put the black on there. Set her for 2.3 volts. Power on. And she is lit. Okay. She's supposed to be lit. Let's see if we can get that on camera. Yep. She's lit. You guys can see it. So I didn't mess up my soldering. Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and get the next one soldered up. And we will be good to go. Engine can should be dry of paint then. I'm not going to solder it, I'm not going to glue them together tonight. Simply because I told girlfriend I wouldn't stay up all night. I'm going to keep my word on that. When she watches these videos, she'll know. I'll be back when I got the other one set up for soldering. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys see a bunch of soldering tonight. So back in a bit. Alright. Don't know if I answered this question earlier or not, but when you're using a soldering iron, you don't want a high wattage iron. This thing's 25 watts. The reason you don't want a high wattage iron is too much heat burns up the LED. So if I apply too much heat right now, that LED is going to get far too hot, and it's going to smoke, and it's going to burn, and it'll never light up. Okay, that's another good thing about these helping hands, is help insulate the LED from high heat. Alright, so here we go. Got my soldering iron, got my solder. I apply my heat, let her heat up a little bit, and apply some solder along the joint. Let her cool. It doesn't take that long for that to cool. Okay? The helping hands help suck up some of that heat. And give her a little tug. And that's on there. That was perfect. That was almost a perfect solder joint. So we'll get my black wire. Align my helping hands the way I want them. There we go. Take my, let's move that a little bit more in frame for you guys. There we go. I take my soldering iron. I apply the heat to the parts in question. There we go. Give it a few seconds. Apply some solder. Oh, they slipped apart on me. No worries on that one. It happens occasionally. It didn't slip apart too much. There's some solder in there. This is not the kind of joint I would like to have. So I'm going to loosen that joint up. And it moved together the way I wanted. So let's see if we can get a little bit more solder on there than what's there, because I don't like the way that joint looks. There we go. Now one more thing about solder. When you've applied the heat correctly and you got the solder on there correctly, I don't know if you guys can see it, but the joint on that is very shiny. Of course, it wants to focus on the helping hands and not what I'm trying to show you. You can see the solder is very shiny on that joint. That means I've applied it properly. If it's dull and fogged looking, that means you applied the solder then the heat. Okay? And you can see I can tug on that and that doesn't go anywhere. Let me get some power to this. And let's see if I have light. And if I have light, I am good for tomorrow's gluing session. And I can glue the engine cans together and then start on the big A-wing. Uh-oh. We got 2.2 volts. We got red and black. And I have no power. Let me see something. It's possible I did it, but I don't think I did. It's also possible that's a fried LED. Yeah, flipping the LEDs, leads, nothing. Possible I had a bad LED to begin with, and I'm going to have to redo that because my soldering joints are good. I have no light out of this. I didn't test it before I soldered. Never had to test them. Yeah, I got a bad LED. So look at that. So I'm going to pull my solder joints apart and get a new LED. No worries on that. It's not that hard to pull the solder joints apart. I just get my helping hand on there, get my solder on there, and see, comes right off. Now I'm not trying to make a clean solder joint. You want a clean soldering joint, you can't do what I'm doing. I am just trying to get that the wires off the LED. I want to keep my leads. I don't care about keeping the LED. Now, a couple of things. That LED might have been good before I soldered and I got her too hot. That is a distinct possibility. I don't think so. But yeah, it's a distinct possibility. Sorry guys, I've got too much solder on my soldering iron. I'm just trying to clean her off a little bit. Let me get a new LED. You guys are lucky. You get to see soldering 6 times tonight. I'll be back. Alright, Got the new one cut. Got her on the helping hands. Heat is being applied. Solder is applied. Looks good. I mean, I don't know how much of this you guys are picking up in the video, but you can see soldering is quick. And once you get some practice at it, it's pretty easy. It takes me more time to align this thing in the helping hands than it does to actually solder the LEDs together. That is the honest truth. I spend more time trying to get this thing to align properly and hold everything right where I want it than I do actually soldering. You can see I'm struggling to get that aligned the way I want it. There she is. She's aligned. Got my soldering iron. Okay. I'm going to apply my heat. And a little bit of solder. Let her cool. Alright. Let's pull it apart and see what we did. Tugging. They're on there good. Let's give it power. Let's make sure the LED is still viable. Because I'm glad I tested that last one. That would have not been fun to epoxy that in and then find out, ooh, it's not going to light. Power on. And we have light. Okay? And you can see we have light. She's not the brightest thing in the world. She's not going to be. She's a... Gosh. That's the third time I've had that happen with these yellows. I'm running 2.2 volts and they shouldn't dim out like that. I don't know. We're going to see in a minute. But anyhow, she's lit. She's lit. We got good light. Let's put her in an engine can. Let's see what that's going to look like. Of course, my camera don't like it, but that's okay. Zoom out a little bit. Camera don't like it. I don't have a connection 100% right, but it's going to look pretty good. It's kind of a small size. It'll get the job done and it'll get the idea across. And that's what I'm looking for. Alright, so tomorrow I will glue these things up. I'm going to get them all ready tonight. And part of the reason why I'm waiting until tomorrow, I'm going to put some glue on the Brocchieri Cruiser. I'm going to glue 2 more parts on her. Okay? She's kind of on the back burner, but not forgotten. Let's put it that way. Deslox is sitting, waiting for primer to cure. The primer I'm using on Deslox for some reason has taken 6 to 7 days to cure. And I don't know why. It's okay because I've got other projects to work on. And I put a primer coat on him a few days ago. So he's just got to sit. And I'm not going to put another coat on until that's cured. So I will be back tomorrow with more work on this. Back in a bit. One last tip. The ends of the LEDs I cut off, they're square little wires. I am saving those for detailing work. I could use that to make little pipes or who knows what's out of them. So I'm saving them. We'll see what I can make out of them. But how often you get tiny little square pieces of metal? Not often. And I got that Millennium Falcon sitting over there and I'm going to be doing some work on it. I'm going to kind of alternate between the A-Wings and the Millennium Falcon. Okay? So those are going to come in handy with that Millennium Falcon for sure, with all the little detailed wells and things like that going on there. So I'll be back tomorrow to glue things together.